Alright guys, I'm going to do something a little bit different here than most people on YouTube. I'm going to actually show you the build first. And there's a couple important reasons for this. One is because I hope you actually stay and watch the entire video. The second reason is because the actual important thing in this video isn't necessarily the build. It's what I'm going to actually be talking about. So I want you to see the build so you can understand what I'm going to be talking about. Now this video is mainly about healing, and a lot of healing. Now, the best way I can describe this is that healing in the Division is a lot like weapon damage in the Division. Now, for those of you that are actually familiar with weapon damage, you know that it's all about getting that multiplicative bonus. Now, weapons have their base weapon damage, so the normal weapon damage that rolls on them. And then, of course, you can get extra weapon damage, and if you had, let's say, 100% extra weapon damage, you'd be getting 200% weapon damage. Then, of course, comes in other things like crit hit damage or headshot damage. And if you had 100% headshot damage, on top of that 200% weapon damage, you'd be getting 400% damage whenever you got a headshot. And then, of course, you have total weapon damage and amplified weapon damage. And again, those are additional multiplicative stacks. So if you have 400% with that headshot, and then you have 100% total weapon damage, you're going to be hitting for 800% weapon damage. Now, of course, that's pretty much the key to a lot of these, one-shot sniper builds, getting huge multiplicative bonuses. Well, the thing that a lot of players don't necessarily care about or don't pay attention to is healing does the exact same thing. You have the base healing that is on your skill. You have the additional percentage gain from the skill tiers that are assigned to, the specific healing skill. Then you have repair skills that you can roll onto your gear. Then there's the skill repair talents that buff again multiplicatively with everything else. And then of course you have incoming healing, which again multiplicatively buffs all the healing from skills that are applied to you. So you can see really quickly by stacking a bunch of those things, you can get massive heals. Now there's a few kind of caveats to this. When Warlords of New York launched, or somewhere after there, maybe I don't exactly remember when, they did remove incoming healing from certain talent buffs. So if you were using Clutch before, when the game launched, you could actually increase the healing from Clutch by using incoming healing. Well, they removed that. So talents that directly heal you no longer work with incoming repairs. That's just kind of, the nature of it. It doesn't work anymore, and incoming repairs is directly assigned to skill healing alone. Another thing to mention is the shield. Now, a lot of people ask me about incoming repairs and the Artificer Hive on the shield. Well, unfortunately, the Artificer Hive heals the shield, not you. So the shield does not get a bonus from incoming repairs, because again, incoming repairs is directly related to you. Now, like I said, this build is designed more for teaching rather than just being used. Now, it can be used, but I put it together specifically with certain things just so you could see what kind of is affected by this, grand healing scheme. All right. Now, the talents themselves, those are great. Those are some easy things to add to your healing. You have Reformation and you have Kinetic Momentum, both fantastic talents. You can even use Future Perfect to increase your skill tiers, which again will increase your healing. But an important thing to note about Kinetic Momentum: there are certain skills, mainly two, that work really well with it in the healing department. And that, of course, is the Drone and the Seeker. That's because those skills actually have a significantly long uptime, whereas the Chem Launcher, as soon as you use one, it is considered on cooldown, and you lose that half of Kinetic Momentum. The Hive is a great healing skill, but if you're moving around a lot, and you have to pick it up constantly, put it down, whatever, you're of course going to lose the Kinetic Momentum stack, because it is going to start recharging and basically, go on skill cooldown for however long. And of course it has a really long cooldown time if you completely use it up. And then of course there's the healing trap, which I don't even really need to talk about, I don't think. But one key thing to note is actually the Mender Seeker Mine. Now, I'm using it because I do like the skill. It pairs very well with, moving around, and it just kind of seems like a great companion for the drone. The problem is that incoming repairs is apparently busted with the Mender Seeker Mine. Now, this means that all of your incoming repairs are not going to really do anything for the Mender Seeker Mine. I've reached out to Yannick. Hopefully, they're working on a fix for it. We'll see if he answers my, Twitter question or not. But as of right now, it doesn't work. So why am I using it? Well, again, it's still one of the best skills to use like this. Obviously, it moves with me. The other reason is because there's not really a better option. One option that I considered was running the Tactician with the Artificer. And obviously, the Artificer would buff the Fixer drone. And I would also get an additional skill tier. But in testing and in, real world events, it's not really as good as you would think. The main reason for this is because it still doesn't really provide more healing than the drone and the Seeker Mine. And in a lot of hallways where there's, short ceilings, the Artificer Hive actually has issues where it just doesn't buff the drone. So there's certain times where your drone is going to go unbuffed, and that's kind of ruining the whole point of using it anyway. Of course, you get a longer duration, but you already have like over 200 seconds of duration. So, I think that's enough to get you through pretty much most fights. Now, what I want to look at here is actually just a flat healing skill, right? I want to take off as much of the healing as I can. And I've done this by changing from the Survivalist to remove that outgoing healing buff that it gets. I've removed pretty much all of my repair skill mods and all that stuff. All right, so the only thing that I'm going to be getting a buff from is the Watch, which I can't remove. So I get the 10% repair skills on there. Now you can see that without the buffs, and I'm going to take off the actual mod here, without the buffs, I'm going to be getting almost 20k healing per second, or 20k armor repair per second, which for pretty much any build that you're actually going to be using and getting shot at is pretty terrible. Now, of course, it's better than nothing, but we're going to see here exactly how bad it is. Now, what you're seeing is that I'm barely getting a third of a bar per tick. This is not exactly something that you want if you are constantly under fire and you have to stick your head out to shoot back, obviously, right? So taking damage faster than you can really heal it is a no-go. Now, what I'm going to end up doing here is just replacing that amplified damage talent with Kinetic Momentum. So it's basically the same exact thing, except I'm going to be adding a little bit more healing to it. Now, I did end up releasing the fixer a little bit early before Kinetic Momentum was fully charged, but you do see that the healing has gone to about 50% of a bar. So there is some significant healing addition from that one talent. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to that original chest piece with the spotter, and then I'm going to add 4 repair skill mods to it. So they're not quite 20%, but it's close enough to, 79 or 80%. And it's going to be very similar to the same healing that I got from the Kinetic Momentum chest piece. Again, nothing spectacular, but a significant increase. Now what I'll do is add incoming repair mods to those last 2 pieces so that I have incoming repair and repair skills. And again, what you're going to see here is that it does increase the healing yet again. So I'm not quite getting 1 bar, but it's probably about 80 to 90% of a bar, which is still really good. We're progressively building more and more heals, which is exactly what we want to see. Now I'm going to go back to the Kinetic Momentum chest piece with those 6 mods on. And now you can see we've finally breached that 1 bar barrier. I'm healing for roughly 1.3 bars per tick. And yet again, we're going to make another change. I'm adding 2 additional skill tiers. So I'm not adding any more repair skills or incoming healing. Same mods, same everything. I've basically just chosen pieces that give me additional skill tier with nothing else and keeping everything the same. So what we're going to see here is, of course, another significant increase. This time I'm healing for almost 2 bars per tick. So at this point, we can really see that the multiplicative bonuses, or at least the multiplicative nature of these bonuses, is really starting to ramp up. Now we're going to go to the build that I showed you at the very beginning. This one has 5 incoming mods. It has 6 repair skills slotted into it. It's got 3 skill tiers. And of course, it's got Kinetic Momentum. But additionally, the build is still almost at the crit chance cap. Now, depending on the weapon that you use, if you used a different weapon, like if you were going with an SMG, obviously you'd reach it easy. If you wanted to use an AR, If you went with the Chameleon, because the Chameleon has like a 20% crit chance mod on it, you would be able to get to 60% easy. Which in the footage that I'm going to show you actually at the end of the video, I am using the Chameleon for this very reason, just to get to the crit chance cap. But again, building on all that multiplicative nature, we're going to see a huge jump in healing here. We are getting almost 5 bars per tick. Now, if I am at 720,000 armor, this means that I'm pretty much healing for over 250,000 per tick. Now, one of the very popular builds is the armor regen build. Now, sadly, this one isn't maxed out because I really don't use the armor regen build that much. I am missing an armor regen slot on my mask, and my Murakami Emperor's Guard isn't the best. I would want armor on there, but, you know, this is the closest I can get to it. And I am still getting a respectable 70k armor per second. You can see that it still takes me a significant amount of time to get to that same threshold that I did with the other builds. In fact, it takes about 10 seconds compared to like the less than 3 seconds that it did with the repair skills build. Now, even with the drone active at the exact same time, I'm still, you know, significantly over the time it took with my actual repair skills, incoming repairs build to get to that same level. So I think with the drone, it was getting, you know, roughly around 8 seconds to that same level. So still over 2 times longer. Now, if I used actually both skills on my incoming repair skills build, I'm not going to be able to actually drop my armor in the range. I'm going to be doing too much healing to myself to be able to do anything. Now, obviously, the damage self function isn't really as strong as a bunch of NPCs shooting at you, but it is still an interesting thing to look at. Now, just for giggles, I decided to proc my Future Perfect and just kind of get 3 of those skill tiers for nothing, right? And what we're going to see here is I'm basically just going to get healed in 2 ticks from my drone. I mean, that's pretty nice. Let's not lie. That's a nice amount of healing. Now, in actual combat, like I said, I was going to use the Chameleon just because I wanted that crit chance, you know, make it better with clutch. And I was actually, you know, more than happy with the build. It's not necessarily something that you can just face tank everything with, just because, you know, the drone doesn't work smoothly while you're running, all right? It doesn't work very well if you're moving too fast. If you're firing and moving at the same time, you can generally get steady heals, but if you decide to start running, it's not going to keep up with you. And that's the same thing with the Mender. If you move too fast, it's obviously not going to heal you because you're not going to be in the circle. But it is perfect for just constantly shooting from cover. In fact, if you're shooting from cover, you do get your armor dropped. You come back, you reload. Before you can even fully reload your weapon, your armor is going to be back 100%. So it's, in a way, it can be 100% uptime because the only time you're in cover is when you're reloading your weapon to fire again. And by the time you empty your weapon, you know, go back to get some more healing, you're already at full armor and your weapon's reloaded and you can shoot again. I mean, it works really well in this manner. Again, it's not something that you can just stand out in the open and just, you know, tank bullets. Now you can in some situations, but let's be honest, that's not really the way that the Division 2 is designed. It doesn't want to be the, you know, just out of cover, face tank everything, unless you're using a shield build or a build specifically designed around that, and usually that involves the shield. But for a build that has no armor, this does have some significant tanking ability. And like I said, you get your armor lost, you run back to cover, you duck down, you roll. By the time you come out of that roll, by the time you reload your weapon, you're already at full armor again. I mean, it is pretty nice to have this feature on a build. Now, what I want to say is, I know a lot of people are like, well, you're losing so much damage. I would rather have so much damage. Look, if you're one of those players who dies on a regular basis, more damage is probably not what you need. What you need is survivability. And survivability comes in 2 ways, armor or healing. Armor by itself is not as good as healing is. And this is because armor, for all intents and purposes, is a single-use stat, right? Once you lose your armor, doesn't matter how much you had, you don't have it anymore. If you have no way to get your armor back, you might as well not even have high armor, right? I mean, that's pretty much the basic of it. If you have high armor but can't get it back, it's pointless. And for this reason, being able to regen your armor extremely quickly is in many ways more valuable than having high armor. And this build regens armor faster than the strongest armor regen build. So honestly, that's a very nice reason to use a build like this. And like I said, this is more for teaching you how to actually put this stuff together. You don't need to put everything in the same order that I have. You don't need to use the same weapons or use the same talents or whatever. I'm just showing you what you can achieve, because this is me trying to explain to you how to get the most out of your build, especially if you need healing. If you want a little bit more damage and you don't want so much incoming or so much repair skill, put in more weapon damage. If you spend some time and effort, trying to balance or, get the right ratio of healing to damage for you, I mean, that's fantastic. That's what I want. That's what this video is designed for. What is that, threshold? Where is that, cap of how much healing you want? Hopefully this, gave you some perspective on how you can get the most out of that healing. Remember, it's multiplicative. So if you have 20% repair skills, 20% incoming, a skill tier, you're going to get a lot more healing than you would if you just put on 2 repair skill mods. And if you have on a talent that gives you that total skill repair buff or whatever, you're going to get even more healing out of your build. And the more that you can actually sit and cover and fight without having to wait for your health to slowly trickle back or spend time using armor kits and eventually running out of armor kits, there's just a lot more benefit to being able to heal yourself adequately while firing and not having to worry about sitting in cover and hiding and waiting for your armor to come back and then hoping that the enemy doesn't get you. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you get something out of it. I hope I didn't just, spend a bunch of time talking to myself and no one pays attention to it. But thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.